Welcome to the Bros of Gardening. I am Mike Westphal, your host, with my co-host as always, Daniel Van Dyke. How you doing today?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
And of course, we're always joined by Alex, who is going to help kind of guide us through this. We've got a fun topic today, which is bro versus bro. We really liked the last one that we did. So this is going to be the trees edition, where we're going to talk about our 5 favorite trees, and we're going to rank them. And you tell us how it works.
Yeah, so each of you should have 5 trees that you've prepared for me today.
Yeah.
And I'll look them up and look at them and see which one I prefer, based on your suggestions as well. And you'll have to persuade me, do your best. And then you'll get a point, and those who have the most wins.
Well, it's funny, it kind of brings back full circle, because the first thing I ever really did at the company was I worked for Mike in trees and shrubs. So we've been talking about trees for, 15 20 years now. Yeah. So should be pretty much second nature for us. We've been talking about them for a while, so I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, and it's one of probably my, still passions of gardening in general is trees. I've just always loved, how long-lived they are and how much of a part they are of, the air we breathe and everything that you do in landscape. We always say, was there a tree over there? Yep. There used to be a tree there. Would you like a tree there? Yep. And the placement of large shade trees and smaller ornamental trees. And so I just think they're such a huge part of landscape and Mother Nature and Earth and humanity and all of that stuff. So it's such an important thing.
Well, and that's really how we kind of build out landscapes, is whether it's an existing tree that's already 60 feet tall, 100 feet tall, whatever the case may be, or we're planting a tree that will eventually grow into be that. You kind of start with the trees and then kind of work off of that, so that's what kind of sets your yard up. And so trees are a huge part of it, and that's really what kind of starts that, a lot of times what starts that design and kind of landscape process.
So it was very difficult for me to choose.
This should be interesting.
I mean, I could do a top 100 if I had to.
Okay, writing that down. All right, so who shall go first?
Go for it, buddy.
All right. I'm up first. All right, so I picked, I like to pick, weird things. But I started off my list with a really, really kind of classic tree that I think, probably a lot of people do plant, and we sell a lot of them here at the garden center, but it's a Yoshino cherry. So you can look that up. So Yoshino cherries are kind of like the quintessential blooming spring tree.
Oh, wow.
I love the size. It gets about 20 to 30 feet high and wide. So not very big, but not a small like understory tree. They can actually have a pretty good, broad width to it, where they kind of really can create a nice canopy that you can sit under or grow under. But the best part about it, of course, is the spring blooms, when it blooms with the white cherry-like blooms in the early part of spring. And what I love about it is multiple different things. When it's blooming, is the blooms will actually show off pure white, and then there's the stamens inside are kind of like almost like a pink purplish hue, and then as the petals age, you start to pick up that pink, kind of starts to bounce off the white. And there's nothing prettier than when you get a little spring rain and the bark turns like almost completely like black, and then you have all these white blooms on the branches. It's absolutely amazing. Locally, you see them all over the place. Of course, DC is known for the Cherry Blossom Festival, which I have never been to. It's on my bucket list, but I know it's crazy busy there that time of year, so I tend to not go. But there is a boulevard in Newport News that I'm sure Daniel knows really well, Cannon Boulevard. So of course, Cannon planted all of these trees along that Cannon Boulevard, and there's probably, 150 that line this road. So every spring I make a point to just drive down there. It's very close to my home, so it's easy for me to kind of go and check them out. But it's a really pretty tree. And then, of course, the fall color is kind of a nice golden color, so it's, nothing to, kind of bat your eyes at. It's a very nice fall color. Has very minimal issues, really. I mean, borers sometimes can get them, but it's pretty easy to kind of cure. And just a great canopy tree, small, front yard landscape tree that I think everybody, if they're looking for a small tree and looking for some different options, Yoshino cherry is a good one.
You started out strong. This is a really nice tree.
Well, and it's also cool because of how it kind of blooms, especially around here, is that the blooms open up kind of before the foliage.
Yep.
So a lot of times if you have a tree that's fully leafed out, the blooms can get kind of lost and hidden, but I mean, it's just a showstopper when it opens up, because a lot of the foliage hasn't come on yet, and it's just all, they've obviously, Mike chose the white, there's pinks, there's different colors, and it's just, it's a pop of color early in spring. And it's always kind of, to me, like the signal So, all right, spring is here.
Yep,
That's when I start to get excited.
It's
you
like
see
forsythia, pears, and cherries.
And then, exactly. So once the cherries opened up, and I actually knew somebody who went up to the Cherry Blossom Festival, and they loved it. So I'm gonna have to check that one out too.
It's kind of like you got your own here in Newport News.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to go that far.
Right.
All right, Daniel.
All right, yeah, it's going to be tough. So I went with a little bit less showy, not as much known for color, but kind of a tried and true. I went with a river birch. The most popular one that we use is called a Durahit river birch, but there are different types and different sizes and stuff like that. So river birch is what, kind of my trend with a lot of the different shrubs and things that I recommend is durability, low, not a lot of things, doesn't have a lot of issues with pests, doesn't have a lot of issues with, very hardy. And so a river birch is that to the extent. And so obviously you can tell in the name river birch, it loves wet areas. And so we've gotten a lot more into like conservation gardening and rain gardening, where we kind of we talked about that on a podcast, or one of the previous podcasts was kind of how to do, control the water, erosion control, different things like that. And so when you create or have these low-lying areas, trying to find certain plant material that can thrive with wet feet and with that type of moisture. And river birch is one of them. I mean, river birch will drink up a ton of water. We use river birch kind of in different ways systematically and to try to kind of help alleviate water concerns. It kind of has this peeling bark to it. It has a really unique bark. It doesn't necessarily put out like a showy bloom or anything to that extent, but like I said, the bark is really showy. It's a beautiful tree. It grows quick. I mean, that's another thing I like about it is, you get it in the ground, it's going to start growing. That one in particular gets pretty big, but there are some dwarf versions of it. Okay. Like I said, there's a lot of different types of them, but just river birch in general, Durahit being my favorite, it's a problem solver, which is usually kind of what I'm looking for. We have customers that come to us and we're usually trying to kind of solve their pain points. And a lot of them it is, hey, I have this low-lying area, can't get anything to grow, want to dry this area up. And so river birch, I know when I plant a river birch, we're not going to have to go back and replace it. It's going to grow. All you got to do is give it a little bit of water if it is dry, and it's going to pretty much do the rest. It has a really cool exfoliating kind of peeling bark to it. It does create a beautiful shade tree. It can give you a ton of shade, usually multi-trunked. You can get some that are singular trunk. They're just been pruned and trained that way, but most of the time they're a multi-trunked tree, which I like. I think it's a very unique look and gives it a little bit more character. So I'm a huge fan of river birch, again, because they don't give me a lot of headaches and they can solve a lot of problems for you.
Yeah, it's a great one. It's probably my favorite of all the shade trees that we kind of offer to our customers because of so many of those reasons.
Yeah.
Right.
Low maintenance, fast growing, doesn't get gigantic like a oak or a maple where you're talking 50, 60, 70 feet high.
Yeah.
And just a really, really good shade tree option.
This is tough.
I know you're
One of
going
the
with
prettiest scenes
the
I've ever
blooms.
seen.
I'm actually not.
Wow.
Okay, so this one's a bit of a surprise, but I'm going to go with Daniel for the river birch because growing up around our neighborhood, we had a ton of these trees.
Yeah.
So when I see it, it's just always like, it's a bit of a throwback. And also when we used to have storms, I had a buddy of mine, we would take them and we would wrap like all the branches. We take the big trunk, we'd wrap it up, we make the broomsticks out of them. So
Because they do kind of have those little,
so it was just fun. So I look at that and it just brings me back.
Well, along those lines, anybody who's listening for something, I've seen Mike do this a lot around the stores. Birches, if you do have a river birch, they create a really cool trunk. If you do have some big branches, you can cut it up and use it kind of as decor. You can use it for the holidays. I mean, it kind of, stuff like that. And so I've seen Mike do that with displays around here, which reminds me of that. So it is a cool thing to do is you try to use some of those branches and stuff.
Yeah, the famous white birch, which I think is what most people kind of think of, don't grow in this area anymore.
Right.
They're a little bit more of a northern plant. They don't love our heat and humidity anymore. I had one in my backyard when I was growing up as a child. It was probably one of the very rare ones that lived there. And it of course died while I was a child. But these birches, I mean, you're right. I mean, they still have the exfoliating bark, really, really pretty, and low maintenance trees. So, but that is not what I was planning on. Like, that's why I went surefire winter.
I thought I was dead to
right. A
rights.
tall task here.
Yeah, sorry, man.
To try and get you to pick me off.
I saw it immediately and I was like, I know exactly which tree this is. So
see, I knew that. I used my personal, relationship with Alex. I tried to go that route.
All right. Well, Daniel, round 1, you're the winner.
I take it.
Okay, round 2. Who'd like to go first? I think since you won, that's the rule. We kind of go with the winner.
All right. So I'm going to go with another tried and true here. So everybody's heard of a magnolia tree. Magnolia, southern magnolia, especially there's a lot of different types of magnolias, but southern magnolias are what are brown back leaf magnolias. They have those big leaves, they have the brown backs. So my personal favorite, like Mike alluded to in the last one, is not everybody wants a tree that's going to get 60 feet tall.
Yep.
So they made a tree called a little gem magnolia.
Yep.
The little gem magnolia looks very similar to your classic southern magnolia. It's just a dwarf version of it. Now, when I say dwarf, it's still going to get 20, 30 feet tall.
Yep.
It's just not going to get 60 feet tall with a spread, as wide as your house.
Right.
So
Right.
It has a lot of the same benefits. Again, it gives you those nice, white, very fragrant blooms, which is, what a lot of people think of when they think of magnolia. You have the magnolia candles and the magnolia scents. And one of my other favorites is not a lot of trees are evergreen. And so that is one of my favorite things about the southern magnolia is it is evergreen. And so if you're looking for, a lot of times we have customers that are looking for shade or privacy more so. And if they're trying to get privacy, it's usually right about that 15 to 20 foot level.
Yep.
So if you can get an evergreen tree, like you can do conifers and things like that. But if you're looking for more of like a classic tree, going with the little gem, it'll give you that privacy. It's not overpowering. It's not going to take up your entire yard. And you still get the benefits of, those beautiful foliage year round with the white blooms, nice fragrance. And so I'm a big fan of little gems. They do grow fairly slow, comparatively speaking. And so, you got to be a little patient with them. But once they get up there and they get growing, you're in pretty good shape. So little gem magnolia is definitely a favorite of mine and one that I use quite frequently when designing.
Yeah,
so.
It's a great one.
It is a good one.
It's a really pretty, it's kind of the quintessential, Virginia, magnolia with the bloom. And you think of like Williamsburg, Colonial Williamsburg when you think of it. So it's a strong one.
He's got some pretty good ones here, Mike.
All right.
What you got for me?
I got it, though. I got this one.
All right. Okay.
So this is one that you probably haven't heard of. But it's a fairly common tree. It's actually a native tree to Virginia. It's called the fringe tree.
Yep.
So it's a really, really cool tree. Only gets about 15 to 20 feet high. Sometimes can be multi-trunked, kind of like a crepe myrtle. Sometimes can be singularly trunked. But what I love about it is, well, one, it's got a lot of fun names to it, too. So I used to refer to it as Granny's Graybeard.
I've never heard that one.
I think it came from the original common name of Grancy Graybeard, and then people just turned it to Granny Graybeard or Granddad's Graybeard, and there's a lot of different reasons why that might be there. There's also like a caterpillar that gets on it from a native a butterfly that has gray kind of. Anyways, we won't go down that, but it's a really pretty tree. 15 to 20 feet high, about the same width, maybe not quite as wide, but it gets this white fringy flower, hence the name, that blooms in the spring, and it's after it as the leaves come out. So, all the leaves come out, and then all of a sudden, this kind of lacy, fringy white flower appears, and it almost looks like billowing effect. So it's a really cool tree. It's fragrant. So it's a fragrant blooming tree. Most people don't know that. And it gets a blue kind of almost dark blue berry on it that the birds absolutely love. Fall color is not crazy amazing. It's, anything that blooms white typically is going to have a gold to yellow fall color, which it does. But it's native. It's easy to grow. Hardly anything messes with it. So if you've got deer issues or fungus issues or anything like that, if you live in Virginia, this is a great tree to try. Good front yard tree. You can limb them up. You can grow them as a large bush if you want to. It is deciduous. It'll lose its leaves in the winter, but it's a really, really cool one that, not a lot of people know of, and it's got a fun name to it too.
It does.
Yeah, that's a popular one because we, one of the more, like you said, natives and trying to find a native. And even sometimes when we're doing projects, whether it's, through the CBPA in our area, the Chesapeake Bay, a lot of times they require and appreciate natives. And so we use fringe trees a lot. It's a really cool plant. I can't argue with much on that one. And again, it's one that not everybody knows of, a little bit more unique, but they are, that's a really nice tree.
I'm about to go down 2-0.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Daniel.
Oh, man. We might not get through this list. I might be. You're just going to have to pick me just to get through the list.
No. But I really do like those magnolias. They look really nice too.
Cool.
So, but the fringe tree was an interesting choice because I feel like I've seen that maybe at Botanical Gardens a couple times growing up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So-
Definitely going to be in lots of botanical gardens, and you'll see them around town. And the blooms in the spring are kind of a little bit kind of submissive. Like you don't really see them, a ton.
Right.
They're not like eye popping, but it's a cool one.
It is.
All right. Daniel, 2. Mike, 0.
Yeah.
Okay. So round 3. Want to start again?
All right, so I'm going to go with, it's another kind of different take on a really popular kind of classic tree, and that's the Coosa dogwood. So obviously our state tree is the dogwood, which
Yep.
is not the Coosa dogwood, but it is a dogwood, the Cornus dogwood, I believe it is. But those prefer a lot of shade. They're more of definitely like an understory tree. You know, you can see them growing a lot of times in nature and in the woods and stuff like that. Beautiful tree. Again, it's kind of along the same lines of the cherry, like we talked about. Like that's like kind of spring is here. You know, you see the dogwood start to bloom. The Coosa dogwood is just one that is a little bit hardier, can definitely take a lot more sun.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of times what we're looking for is, not everybody's got the right environment for a dogwood. Dogwoods have a few issues here and there, like I said, especially this one's just a little bit hardier, has a little bit less issues when it comes to diseases and stuff like that, and at least in my experience. And then again, the big thing is it can take a lot more sun, because a lot of people are trying to plant trees out in front of their house because they don't have trees. And so if they don't have trees that create that canopy or create that shade, then they want to plant a dogwood. So again, that's to me has been one that we've used a lot of. They come in a few different colors. You can get them in white. You can get them in pink. There's probably 50 different versions of Coosa dogwoods now, right? So all different sizes, all different shapes. But it's a really cool one. It's a really popular one that I like. And the person who actually kind of introduced me to Coosas more so was, I think we carried some of them. I don't think they were as popular back then. But the former owner of the garden center, Eddie Anderson, he used them a ton when he would do designs. And so I would be working with him on projects, and I kept seeing him over and over again. And so then when I started doing the designs on my own, I started kind of incorporating them, because I figured if he's using them, there must be a good reason for it. So, and I haven't had many customers complain about it. So that's a cool one to me, that again, you get that dogwood. It's a little different, doesn't bloom quite as early. It's a later bloomer, but you still get those nice blooms. You still get the dogwood, still get similar kind of bark, which it has a unique bark to it. But you get a few more benefits with the hardiness and being able to be a little more sun tolerant and disease tolerant.
Yeah, it's a good one. It almost made my list. I mean, because I love Coosas too. I think everybody wants, the classic native, dogwood. The problem with dogwoods is they need to be in the forest, in wooded areas. So it needs to be amongst other, larger trees, and that's what they prefer. And so a lot of people don't have that. And so a Coosa dogwood's a great option. You see a lot of them up in like Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York. They bloom for a long period of time. Their berries in the fall look completely different than a regular dogwood. It's almost like a raspberry. So really cool. We actually have one here at our Independence location, our garden center here. And it's, dropping berries all last week. All over the sales yard. So, but they're really, really great trees. So that's a good choice.
All right. That was a good one. Mike, what do you got?
All right, so I've got another slightly weird one, but I think I can pull this off. All right, so it's sassafras. Sassafras is a fun name to say. It's a cool tree. It's also native to Virginia. But here's what's really cool about this tree is the leaves. So rarely do we talk about the leaves of a plant. This one has 3 different types of leaves on one plant. So you've got a regular oval-shaped leaf. Just like if you would draw a leaf, that's the shape.
Right.
Then they've got a 3-lobed leaf, so it's kind of almost like 3 little points. And then there's a mitten-shaped leaf, so where it's like just one lobe off to the side and then an oval-shaped leaf. And so on this one tree, you'll have 3 different leaves. So it's a really kind of fun one to kind of, walk if you're walking through the woods or doing some hiking or something like that. To look out for this tree because it's very distinctive. It's got a really cool, unusual bark as well, very deeply lobed. It can live for a fair amount of time, can get a wide range of sizes from 30 feet to 50 feet, but kind of tall. And again, another kind of like wooded tree, kind of like woodland type of tree. But I love the leaves. And then the fall color is absolutely amazing. So it's a bright red, orange, and yellow. You kind of get all 3 fall colors all in one tree. It's really unusual. You probably have heard heard of sassafras, maybe because the roots used to be used for root beer, not used anymore because it's considered to maybe cause cancer. So don't use the roots.
Like a good reason.
Yeah,
Seems like as good a reason as any.
They don't use it anymore. So,
Good.
But it's been used for lots of other medicinal purposes, and it's got lots of really cool, unusual characteristics. And I think the best part is that you don't see a mitten-shaped leaf anywhere. Sure. And so it's just one of those fun things that you get to see when you kind of can see a sassafras. We actually named one of our in-store kind of plant shops here at the garden center after that sassafras tree. And it's just one of my all-time favorites. Gets a little berry on it, blooms a little inconspicuous in the spring. The fall color is absolutely amazing. And then the 3 different types of leaves. I think it's just one of the coolest features on a plant that you really don't see anywhere. Usually if Daniel and I see weird leaves, it's what's the problem?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. We're trying.
Has this thing got a deformation? Has it got a fungus issue? What's going on? This one's just got 3 different leaves because it's just fun and unusual.
I will say, like, so the first thing that always pops to mind to me is the fall color. I mean, that's just,
the first thing that popped up here.
It's stunning.
Like,
you Google it, it's going to show that color for sure.
I'm not picking it just because he's winning, but he's really got a good one here, Daniel.
No, that's a good one. That's an off the wall one. I can respect that.
That looks, that
the
fall
unusual
color. No, I mean, just these blooms are insane in the fall. That looks great. Alrighty, so 2-1. Mike, you'll lead off this round.
I made this hard on myself. All right.
That's all right.
So my number 2 tree is very small. Doesn't get very big, maybe 15 feet at most, usually somewhere between 8 to 10 feet. It's called a contorted filbert. So contorted filbert, really, really different looking tree. It's really probably considered a shrub. The only reason I would classify it as a tree is because if you can limb one up, if you get one old enough, I don't know if Daniel, if you remember the one that was in front of the store many, many years ago. I mean, it's suckered like you hear of crepe myrtle suckers where it's always popping up new branches from beneath. This thing suckered like all day, every day. But it has the coolest trunk to it, and all the branches are super twisted and contorted, hence the name. It's also got another name, Harry Lauder's walking stick. I was about to
say,
which is a fun name too.
Why is it named that? So specific.
I guess because you can make walking sticks out of it. And Harry Lauder must have been somebody in the horticultural world. So Harry Lauder's walking stick, because it's got this really unusual, it's great for containers. Like if you can get a good size contorted filbert growing, cutting off the branches and using them in, porch pots in the winter time frame, just decorations inside the home. The wood lasts a really long time. It's very, very unusual. It actually has a really cool bloom in the spring. So it's got this kind of catkin. It's almost like a yellow catkin. It comes out green. They would call it a catkin because of the way it looks. And it hangs from all the tips of the branches. And filberts are just kind of fun anyways because of that catkin look that they have to them. Not really known for the prettiest looking thing in the summer, because the leaves kind of make it look a little gnarly, and even the leaves have kind of like a crunchy, contorted look to them. But like I said, if you can get one limbed up, it shows off all of that uniqueness on the inside, where you can get this really contorted trunk to all of these wispy kind of curly branches, and really unusual. And then of course the winter is it's amazing. I mean, it's an absolutely amazing tree. Typically in the winter, you're like bored, and then all of a sudden you see a contorted filbert and you're like, wow, what in the world is that? I gotta have one. And so it's one of my favorite very small trees. So if you're looking for a tree for a container,
right,
it's a good option. If you're looking for a tree for a very small space, if you're a plant collector, if you want a specimen, I mean, this kind of fits the bill of all of those things because it's just really rare and unusual.
It is very unusual looking.
It's a cool plant. It's a focal point for sure. If you use it in a landscape, or even like he was talking about, container plants and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Yeah, something different.
Indeed. All right, Daniel.
All right, so this is probably, I don't even know if compared to the contorted filbert, I don't think it counts as, less common. But so for me, my number 2 is called a Stewardia. And so it is a very slow growing tree. Again, it's not going to be a massive tree. I've seen them, I've seen somebody keep one at 15 feet because of how slow they grow. And I've seen one that's as big as 30 or 40 feet. So what I kind of like about them is they're known, they kind of have year round interest compared to a lot of trees. So obviously what they're known for is their flower. their flower to me kind of reminds me of a camellia flower, which you don't see a lot in trees, like those bigger, larger flowers. They're white, they really pop. They come out in the summer again, kind of along the lines of like that magnolia where you have that summer color. So it's a really cool tree. I remember the first time somebody showed me the tree, I legitimately thought it was a camellia bloom. And so it's a really unique bloom for a tree. Again, fairly hardy. Again, they're not as common, so a lot of people don't know about them, but they don't have a lot of disease issues that I've ever dealt with or encountered. And then once you hit that fall, they have a really, really nice fall color too. They have just a very, very vibrant fall color when they start to turn. So right when you're getting done with those blooms and you're getting out of that, they're going to turn that vibrant fall color. And then one of my favorite parts about it is then once it does drop, it kind of has that exfoliating bark again, which is kind of the same thing with the river birch. Probably the most common one is like the Natchez crepe myrtle around here. People have seen them, but even when they have nothing, all their leaves have fallen, dead of winter, where everything else has kind of lost its interest. A lot of your stuff has gone dormant for the winter. It has this kind of unique exfoliating bark that will give you just, again, something else, just some type of a focal point, something to look at, something to enjoy in the wintertime. Again, I always kind of associate that because not necessarily that the bark doesn't happen in any other times of the year, but that's when you can really enjoy it, whether it's the crepe myrtle, whatever the case may be. So that exfoliating bark for me has always been, kind of a cool feature on trees. So, the Stewardia to me is one that you can put it in front yards. It can take some different environments. It doesn't get overpowering. Because as you can see, a lot of my trends are people don't want 60, 70 foot trees. So, maples, oaks, all those things are tried and true for a reason. They'll grow. There's a lot of advantages to them. But a lot of people are saying, that's not what I want. I want a tree, but I don't want it to get that big. So, finding these smaller trees that still give you a lot of the same benefits. But the one kind of drawback to the Stewardia, if you are trying to create shade, if you're trying to do something like that, you're going to have to wait a little while. It takes a little while to grow. It is a slow growing tree, which some people love about
Usually
it.
How long?
I mean, if you wanted it to be 30 to 40 feet, you're probably talking
30 to 40 years.
Yeah. So,
about a foot a year.
But it'll start blooming and you can enjoy it. It's just, again, if your goal is, hey, I want to create shade or I'm trying to produce, something to that extent, the Stewardia might not be the best choice for you. But if you're just looking for kind of a focal point accent tree, it can give you some great summer color and again, kind of some year-round interest from fall into winter and then heading back into spring. So
these are good choices, guys. Let me ponder.
This is actually a good kind of, tricky one because not many people probably know either one of them.
Yeah.
Right. I like the spring blooms on the Stewardia. The filbert tree, I think, is going to win just purely because how crazy it looks.
Harry Lauder's walking stick.
Shout out Harry.
Walking away with it.
Harry had a great idea. But all right, point goes to Mike. For those listening or watching, this is not intentional, but you're tied.
I guess I'll have to take this serious
2
again.
and 2.
I was going to coast.
The last round, who will win?
Oh, this is my all-time favorite tree.
Oh boy.
This is it. And I've got lots of cool facts about it.
Right.
But it's the ginkgo tree.
The ginkgo tree. I've heard you say this.
So, yeah, I know I've probably mentioned it before, even on this podcast and lots of other videos. But ginkgo tree is just a really unusual, very, very cool tree. It's considered a shade tree. And there used to be a quote like, planting a tree, knowing good and well that you'll never enjoy the shade or fruit, the fruits of your labor of planting the tree, because this tree grows very, very slow, but it is extremely long-lived. So they have fossils that date back 200 million years ago of the leaf of the ginkgo tree. So it's been through everything. Wow. It's been through so much. There are specimens that are 1,400 years old currently living. Some that say that they're, more like 3,000 years old throughout China. But they get typically about 60 to 100 feet tall. So now they grow probably less than a foot a year. So that would be in 60 to 100 years. But what's really cool about this tree is it's just very unusual. It's got a fan-shaped leaf, which is very different and very kind of, I think, prehistoric looking. And then I think the all-time best part of this tree is the fall color. So, and maybe because we're doing this podcast in the fall, a lot of ours have fall color things because that's what we're thinking about. But
on the brain.
The ginkgo tree turns, and I'll say yellow. So, yellow fall leaves, I think, are kind of boring. I mean, it's part of the landscape, but typically people want fall colors to be reds, oranges, even some of the purples, like of the pear trees. But ginkgo is not yellow. It's gold. I mean, it is the most pure gold you've ever seen on the leaves. And then this is, I think, the coolest part, is all of a sudden the ginkgo tree is fully loaded with tons, millions and millions of gold leaves. And then over a 3 to 4 day time frame, it drops every single leaf. Makes cleaning up leaves really, really easy because you do it in one fell swoop. You don't have to do it every week for the next 5-6 weeks. So it drops all of them. And then what happens is all those leaves stay gold for a long time on the ground. So it looks like this golden pond underneath this bare tree. Really cool. It is super, super cool. When you look up pictures, you'll see the fall color. Really unusual. There's lots of different types now of varieties. Some that are dwarf that can grow in containers. Most of them are derived off the ginkgo biloba, the original tree. And a lot of people get worried about it because if you live in New York, it's a great street tree, great root system. You can plant it right next to driveways and sidewalks, and it'll never break the concrete because the root system goes straight down. So they use a lot in New York as a street tree. But the females will drop a berry that is kind of stinky. And so it drops this berry, and as you walk on it, so typically you're getting males nowadays in garden centers that don't actually fruit. So you don't typically have to worry about that. And it would be pretty rare that you would ever get a female that would actually have the berries on it. Right. But really cool tree, something that I know we've got one out here. I was just going to say there's one out there. I guess Mark, the current owner of McDonald Garden Center, planted many, many years ago, and he lived right next to the garden center. And it's probably 30 feet, 40 feet tall. I mean,
it's huge. Yeah.
Had that huge wasp nest in it this year.
Oh my gosh,
which was really cool. But ginkgo trees are just long lived. Been through a lot, gonna be here for many, many, many more years. Something that you can plant for generations to enjoy, which I think is a cool sentiment. Absolutely. Just to say, hey, I planted a tree that, the next 1,400 years possibly could live here.
Right. It's still a miracle we didn't get stung filming those videos underneath that tree. It was a huge nest. All right, Daniel.
All right.
What do you got?
Well, so ginkgos, it's a pretty cool tree. Like I said, I should have known. I know we've talked about those before. Mike's a big fan. Again, we don't see them a ton, which I think almost kind of adds to the kind of mystique of, they are more rare. And so I think it's a really cool tree. But for me, I went with a coral bark Japanese maple. So again, Japanese maples are everybody's probably heard of Japanese maples by now. If you're tuning into a gardening podcast, chances are you probably have heard about Japanese maples. There's a lot of different kinds. I always kind of look at, the weeping maples versus the upright maples. And then, even the upright maples, you can get some that stay very small and then some that get a lot bigger. Coral bark is one of the larger ones long term as far as what size it gets to. But it is a really cool color combination. So basically, you can write in the name coral bark maple. So the actual bark of the tree is like a bright red, and it fades a little bit throughout the year, but it comes open and it's this bright red bark, and then you have these lime green leaves on top of it. So you have this like really, really cool color contrast. And like I said, it's more of a lime green than like a dark green, which is what a lot of the other maples and stuff are. And so it just creates this 7-8 month color contrast. But then even when they does drop those leaves, like I've talked about with some of the other stuff, I'm always trying to kind of create that year-round interest. And so then you have this red branched kind of coral bark maple. That's why one of the ones we didn't even mention, it's a little bit more of a shrub, like a red twig dogwood. Right. Like you get this bark and this bark color that gives you a lot of interest in the wintertime when most things, again, are dormant and there's not a lot to look at. So when you use that as a focal point, they have unique branch structures, all the other things that Japanese maples are known for. Really easy to maintain, really easy to do things like that with. But then you also get this nice bark color and a beautiful color contrast throughout the entire year. The other thing about Japanese maples is why they are a focal point. They do kind of give off this bit of a more, upscale aesthetic. Yeah. They are extremely hardy. Like it's, not a lot. They don't have hardly any disease and pest problems. Yep. They'll grow. I mean, this one will take full sun. There are, there are ones that will grow in the shade as well. That's just more of a broad spectrum Japanese maple sale. But for the coral bark, it gets better color in the sun. But they're extremely hardy. They can grow. They're very easy to grow, and they give you this kind of well manicured kind of just aesthetic of a little bit more upscale. Like I said, it's one of my favorite things about maples because people are usually trying to create that focal point, and it gives you pretty much interest throughout the entire year, whether it's gone dormant and defoliated, or obviously when it's doing its thing, doesn't bloom or anything like that, but it still gives you plenty of color throughout the entire year, just with that color combination of the branch structure as well as the leaves. So I'm a big fan of Japanese maples overall, but if I had to pick one, which was hard to do, I think I'd go with the coral bark.
And they really have these trunks that turn almost red.
Yeah. It's really, it's a great tree. I mean, it is gorgeous. And I mean, I think when the fall color comes and, again, we're talking about fall, it's in fall. And so when all those leaves start to fall off and then it kind of shows off that pink, it's just absolutely amazing. It's a good one, but it hasn't lived as long as the ginkgo.
That's true.
Wow. You know what? I'm going to go with the ginkgo.
I'm
sorry, Daniel.
I think this is my first win.
I think it is. That's right. Daniel won
two, but
1-1.
Celebrate all you want. Congratulations. Yes.
I'm about to say, to start 2-0, that's a collapse like the Warriors.
That's like the Eagles game the other day.
I know.
Awesome. Congratulations, Mike. You are the winner of this bro versus bro.
Sweet.
And I have no prize for you except for the bragging rights.
Yeah. Well, hey.
We'll have to do another one soon then, because I can't go down like that.
Yeah. I mean, these are fun, and it gives us a chance to just kind of geek out about, some of our favorite topics.
They're really cool trees. I mean, some of these are
just
like,
amazing.
wow.
I mean, I had to cross off some big ones on my list. I mean, Shishikashira Japanese maple is one of my all-time favorites. I mean, I love fig trees, pawpaws. I mean, the list could go on and on.
Did you have any runner-ups?
What's that?
Did you have any runner-ups?
I mean, again, it was hard for me to leave off the crepe myrtle.
I know.
Crepe myrtle just in
too.
general, when you talk about summer color and just hardiness and everything else, I think some people, especially in our area, there's a lot of crepe myrtles around. So I think some people have kind of gotten exhausted with them. But I mean, crepe myrtles they're popular for a reason.
Yep.
But yeah, I think a lot of those types of things. And then, we didn't really get into conifers and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of people consider those trees and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could go on we could have probably done a top 25 on this one.
Yeah.
But
We'll have to be like an hour special one. All right.
We could break it up into groups.
Yeah.
there you go.
Cool. All right. Well, this was fun, guys. All right. So thank you for listening to the Bros of Gardening podcast. And next week, we're going to be kind of talking about some of the issues that we've had, meaning even the pros can make mistakes. I mean, we consider ourselves avid gardeners, and even we can make mistakes. And we thought bringing those mistakes to light would help people understand, that everybody makes mistakes and you learn from them. So that'll be interesting. So hope you join us for our next podcast. Again, you can watch our podcast on YouTube. You can listen to them wherever you get your podcast. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Leave comments. Let us know how you're enjoying this. Ask questions, and we'll get back to you. So we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.